If you're a Christian, I need you to stop everything right now and listen carefully to what I'm about to say. 3 minutes of clinical death revealed a truth so shocking that I've struggled for months to find the courage to share it. Most Christians have no idea they're walking into a spiritual trap, one that could cost them everything. The 3 mistakes Jesus revealed to me during my near-death experience aren't what you'd expect. They're hiding in plain sight, and they're more dangerous than you can imagine. My name is Joe. I'm 56 years old. I passed away on a pitch-black desert highway outside of Scottsdale, Arizona, on March 22, 2025. I didn't drive too fast. I wasn't being ostentatious. I had just left a motorcycle rally and was on my way home. To be honest, I had consumed too many drinks. I was worn out. Empty, I'm mad at myself, furious with God. Perhaps you have experienced that. The person who was constantly at church used to be me. Each Sunday, each Wednesday, the deacon who changed the light bulbs was me, instructed Sunday school, carried the plate of offerings. When no one else remained after potlucks, I cleaned up. That, I believed, made me a good man. A man of God. However, my marriage was failing while I was cleaning the floors at Valley Springs Baptist. My 22-year wife, Linda, left me 8 years ago. She told me she was sick of being subordinate to God. That's how she saw it anyway. I loved the church more than she did, she said, that I didn't know how to love people, I just knew how to serve them. She was being self-centered, I told her. That the first thing was God. However, I believe I knew she was correct in my heart. And then there's my daughter, Jessica. She is now 28 years old. She was strong-willed, intelligent, and attracted her mother's attention. The church viewed her as a disgrace after she filed for divorce from her husband. I didn't stand up for her. I believed that remaining silent amounted to neutrality, but we were broken by silence. It's been 3 years since we last spoke. My grandchildren have not yet met me. Even their names are unknown to me. I now live alone in a worn-down trailer with squeaky floors and partially functional lights that I keep promising to fix. In my friend Ray's garage, I earn a living by repairing motorcycles and performing odd electrical tasks. My hands are kept busy at work, but the nights are long. I take my Harley out into the desert on some weekends. With just the wind, the empty road, and myself, it's the only place I feel at peace these days. However, even that is short-lived. I usually wind up at a local bar on Friday nights, drinking Jack Daniels to try to numb the pain in my chest. No one asks questions there. I enjoyed that. No passages from the Bible. Don't pretend to smile. Only darkness, laughter, and music. The problem is that the loneliness always surfaced, regardless of how many bottles I consumed. I once thought I was carrying out God's will. I now question whether I simply exchanged my family for a name tag and a pew. 3 years ago, I left the church. Just from the building, not from God, from the falsehoods. I witnessed too much. A pastor who stole from the offering plate while begging the underprivileged for money. While ignoring a single mother in need of groceries, deacons were arguing over the color of the carpet. To protect the church's name, a man I trusted covered up abuse. One evening, I sat in my trailer with a Bible in my lap and muttered, "God, was that all a lie?" No response. Nothing but quiet. However, I continued to believe. I simply quit acting. I left the rally later than I should have that Saturday night. I couldn't think clearly. I had a heavy heart. I recall the wind stinging my cheeks, the sound of the engine, and the scent of the desert. Then headlights. Too quickly, too near. The truck allegedly ran a red light. At 60 miles per hour, I T-boned my Harley. I didn't anticipate it. For 7 minutes, they declared me dead. No pulse, not breathing, nothing. However, what I perceived, what I experienced, I'm still attempting to take it all in. Nevertheless, I am certain that it must be told, because Jesus showed me more than just heaven. He gave me a preview. Furthermore, he demonstrated to me the mistakes we are making. The instant I was struck by the truck, it wasn't what you saw in the movies. Slow motion was absent. No time for prayer. There was only a bright flash and a loud cracking sound, the crunch of glass and gravel, the twisting of metal, the snapping of bones. Then nothing. Then something happened. I recall having no weight. Just floating, not flying. For example, all of the pain, guilt, regrets, and heaviness in my chest simply vanished. I saw myself when I looked down. My body collapsed beside my bike on the road, shouting paramedics. The desert is turning red and blue due to flashing lights. However, I felt at ease. I didn't feel afraid. That caught me off guard. I had dreaded this moment my entire life. I believed I would die pleading for forgiveness while reflecting on all the sins I had kept hidden. But then, don't be afraid, nothing but silence. Calm, keep quiet. The stars then began to shift. It didn't appear to be night anymore, but I was in the sky now, somewhere far above that road in the desert. The stars appeared to be dancing, like the northern lights, but warmer. Soft lights glowed around me in shades of blue, gold, and green. It smelled sweet, like rain on dry dirt, if I may use that term. It wasn't cold, but it was cool, like a gorgeous evening in Arizona after the sun sets over the mountains. Now I stood. Sand beneath bare feet, but the sand glowed, warm, golden, and soft. My body was pain-free. No traffic noise, just a profound silence that seemed sacred. There were miles of desert. In the distance, I could see mountains glimmering with light that wasn't from the sun, and dunes rolled like waves all around me. I was aware that I was no longer on Earth. I ought to have been terrified. However, I wasn't. I took a stroll, just one step, then another. Like a lullaby, the air seemed to hum softly. I felt like I was getting better with each breath. I kept walking until I came across him, Jesus. He arrived without thunder or trumpets. No enormous throne, no loud voice. Wearing plain robes, he stood by himself on the sand, resembling a man who had once traversed these deserts. His shoulders were covered in brown hair, beard, galaxies, and grief in those eyes, so much grief. When he gazed upon me, I broke. I remained silent. Did not have to. He was aware already. He witnessed every error I made. Every time I put rules before compassion, religion before love, and silence before the truth. He witnessed the broken vows, the bar stools, and my unspoken loneliness. However, he didn't recoil. He didn't turn away or fold his arms. He took a step forward and extended his hands. Scars were present, softly glowing. Beautiful, not gory, like eternal evidence of love. "Joe," he said quietly, "I understand your heart." That was all that was required. I fell to my knees and started crying uncontrollably, breaking open, not just crying. Years of embarrassment spilled out. I was unable to control myself. He also knelt beside me, not higher than me, alongside me. I feel hands on my shoulders. Not a single word of criticism, simply being there. Calm, love that encircled me like a warm blanket on a chilly evening. How long we stayed there is unknown to me. Minutes might have passed, years might have passed. Time was irrelevant. I just know that I felt secure, very secure, for the first time in my life. as if I had arrived home at last. I had no desire to relocate, refused to talk. All I wanted was to be with him there, in that light. However, he muttered, "Joe, I have something to show you." The light around us started to change as soon as he said that. Something new started to emerge as the desert dwindled. There is an urgent matter, something I didn't anticipate. Like a curtain being drawn back, the light surrounding us changed. Jesus remained by my side even as the desert faded. He never took his hand off my shoulder. Then I noticed it. It wasn't earthquakes, fire, or anything similar. There was silence. Too silent. America's churches are full, but empty. Bibles were in the laps of people sitting in pews, but their eyes were vacant. Despite having flawless voices, worship teams' hearts appeared to be far away. Chilly. Under bright lights, pastors preached from stages, but their words lacked warmth. It resembled a performance, one that was no longer believed in. Jesus stood next to me, a sorrowful expression on his face. "Joe," he said, "I needed you to see this." His eyes met mine as he turned to face me. They were gentle but shrewd, as if they could see right through me. "You never left me, even though you left the church building. In addition, a lot of people have left because they were harmed in my name, not because they despise me." My chest constricted. "Just like Jessica," I muttered. He gave a nod. "Similar to Jessica, similar to Linda, like millions more." The scene changed once more as he raised his hand. I could now see people in their houses, batteries, candles, and food supplies. Some even had whole underground bunkers. They were getting ready, but not properly. I sensed it. They were terrified. Everything was motivated by fear. Their hearts, however, remained enraged, bitter, unforgiving. I noticed a woman holding a list of people she hadn't forgiven in one hand and her Bible in the other. A man shouting curses at his wife while securing his storm windows. Another is ignoring his sobbing kids by his side as he browses through end-of-the-world news on his phone. Jesus spoke once more. They get their houses ready, but they forget about their hearts. They prioritize survival over surrender. I took a deep breath. I recognized myself in them. I kept quiet with Jessica. The walls Linda and I constructed. Every Sunday, I sat by myself in that trailer, nursing a bitterness. Jesus then passed in front of me. Like a father bending down in front of a distressed child, his voice grew softer. "Remember what you used to pray as a deacon, Joe?" Slowly, I nodded. I used to ask God to use me, that He would assist me in bringing others to Him. And what took place? I turned my head away. I lost myself in my work. I believed that simply showing up was sufficient. I assumed that being busy meant being loyal. Jesus covered his heart with his scarred hand. So many people think that, Joe. They will be saved by those rituals, that structures will keep them safe. However, only those who are familiar with my voice will be at peace when the darkness descends. He pondered that. "And that's the first mistake," he said in a whisper. I blinked. What was the first? He faced the vision once more. "During the 3 days of darkness, my people will make 3 mistakes." He held up a finger. First mistake, ritual without connection. The churches grew even darker as I watched. The candles flickered. There were hymns. However, nobody could hear me. Nobody yelled at me. Their religion had become noise. Jesus said softly, "If they don't know me, knowing my doctrines won't help." Religion is performance. Relationship is presence. In addition to studying, they must spend time in silence with me and learn to discern my voice through prayer. Conversation, not perfection, is what I want. He held up a second finger. The second mistake is making physical preparations without making spiritual ones. I saw hearts full of pride, but basements full of supplies. Marriages are dissolving, but shelves are stocked. Souls empty, guns ready. He stated, they are correct to get ready, but they have overlooked the bigger threat. When unforgiveness poisons your heart, what good is food? If hatred fills your soul, what good are candles? He gave me another look. Quick, Joe, say a prayer. Admit it, pardon me, show mercy, conserve affection. They will be fed by those things in the dark. At last, he gave a third finger. Mistake number 3, ignoring the warnings. This time, I witnessed people laughing at prophets, scrolling through their phones, and making fun of anyone who dared to discuss judgment or repentance. Pastors dismissed visions and dreams as emotional bullshit. God's messengers were deemed too extreme by entire churches. Jesus muttered, "They think I'm scary when I'm being merciful. I warn because I care, but they are deafened by pride. We go to church, so we're fine," they say. But church attendance does not equate to readiness. Then he turned to face me. I swear, I could feel that expression in my bones. "You understand what it's like to be disregarded, Joe, to be silenced for speaking the truth. You carry that pain? I also sense it. Each time my messengers are silenced, each time a child is harmed in my name." Once more, something exploded inside of me. The glowing sand struck my knees. I started crying uncontrollably. My throat became tangled with grief as I attempted to speak. I failed them, I stifled. My spouse, my daughter. Religion was my preference over love. When the church covered up sin, I remained silent. When people were in pain, I remained motionless. I failed you. Jesus knelt next to me once more. Not figuratively, he used his hand to wipe away my tears. Physically, his palm touched my cheek. "You didn't let me down," he said. "You sustained injuries, and those who are injured injure others." Now his voice trembled with emotion. "However, I recover. I repair. Those who believed they were ineligible are given new assignments by me." I stared at him, perplexed. "What do you mean? Please return." My heart fell. "No," I muttered. "Please, I don't want to go, never again. Not in that world. It isn't working, cold and loud. All I want is to remain here with you." Jesus gave a soft, sorrowful smile. "I understand. However, Joe, there are a lot of people just like you. Injured, furious, numb. Kids who grew up in the church but never saw me. Parents who stopped praying after receiving criticism rather than support. People avoid me because they believe I am the same person who harmed them." He hesitated. "They must understand that I am not." He got up, and I followed suit. I need someone who can relate to their suffering, someone who has experienced it, someone who will speak with compassion instead of arrogance. "Even though you're not flawless, you now understand what's important." He took a step toward her. "Joe, you are my messenger. To love people with truth, not to frighten them. Inform them that I will be arriving. Inform them that I'm still talking. Inform them that I still have hope for them." Something stirred in my chest. "Don't be afraid, not remorse. However, there is a purpose." "Sincerely," I said, "I'm not sure if I can." "You can. Additionally, you won't be by yourself." Then he covered my heart with his hand. My whole being was filled with a strong, steady, and pure warmth. Now is the moment. I gave him one final glance. I made an effort to commit his face to memory, his gaze, his tone. But I knew in my heart I would always remember. The desert started to disappear. The brightness of the light increased. "Tell them, I'm not in the building. They'll find me in the quiet," was the last whisper I heard. I woke up with a gasp, as if I had been drowning. Above me, the light was clinical, icy, and harsh. Machines that beep, IV lines, voices. My body let out a painful scream. Every breath hurt my chest. I had a parched mouth. I was in a medical facility. Relief wasn't my first thought, it was sorrow. He had left, the desert, the illumination, his tone. Jesus. All that came out of my mouth was a raspy groan. Nurses came running in. A doctor leaned over me, wide-eyed. As if he couldn't believe it, he whispered, "You're awake?" 3 days. I had spent 3 days in a coma. I shouldn't have survived the impact, they said. Internal hemorrhage, fractured skull, complete cardiac arrest. No heartbeat for 7 minutes. My daughter had already received a call informing her that I was unlikely to attend. But I was here. Get up, alive, altered. I was physically ruined. But within, I had never felt more alive. I was grieving for weeks after leaving Jesus. At night, I would close my eyes in the hopes of seeing that luminous desert once more and hearing his voice. I would try to feel the warmth he left behind by pressing my palm against my chest. But above all, I recalled what he had said. Tell them that I still have hope for them. Tell them to find me in the silence. I'm not in the building. I couldn't leave those words alone. Recuperation took time. I had to retrain myself to walk, hold a fork, and breathe painlessly. However, something had changed. I stopped hurrying through situations. The nurse who sang softly while checking my IV was one of the first people I noticed. The janitor who swept the corridor in silence as people walked by. The stranger sobbed into her hands in the waiting area. I used to turn my head away. However, now, they were visible to me. I actually saw them. They were his offspring. I didn't immediately return to my trailer after I was well enough to leave the hospital. I requested a ride to Linda's house from the cabbie. Startled and wary, she opened the door. I had forgotten how much gray was in her hair. She appeared worn out. She did not, however, shut the door. I said quietly, "I'm not here to talk about church. I'm here to apologize." Her lips parted as she blinked. I had never told her those things, not in that manner. I decided to serve in ministry instead of getting married. I also lost both. You deserve to hear it, even though I don't have any expectations of you. You were correct. Her eyes filled with tears. She moved out of the way so I could enter. There was not a complete reconciliation that day. However, it was a wall crack. A start. I arrived at Jessica's place of employment 2 weeks later. I had composed a letter to her, but I never sent it. I believed she should hear it directly from me. She gazed at me as if I were a ghost. "Hello," I said, trembling. "The names of your children are unknown to me. That is something I wish to alter." She remained silent. However, she also didn't look away. I was still using a walker when she brought the grandchildren to visit me a month later. On my front porch, we sat. "This little light helps you see whenever it gets dark," I said, handing them each a tiny flashlight. "However, the light that Jesus provides enables you to love." They chuckled. They didn't fully comprehend. However, it made no difference. I was present, and I wasn't hiding behind a Bible verse or a pulpit this time. I was simply Dad, Grandfather, Joe. I didn't return to Valley Springs Baptist. I didn't remain resentful, though. I made a small but new start. Desert Light Fellowship is what I called it. On Tuesday evenings, we get together in my garage, don't preach, no stage, just coffee, honesty, and folding chairs. People who have been expelled from churches come here. Others arrive who went out on their own. Some people merely sit and listen. Some people cry. Everyone is welcome. We expose our wounds as well as the Bible. We don't act as though we've been healed. We guide one another toward recovery. I began to move slowly, spreading the word in parks, at home churches, and at small gatherings. I didn't instill fear. I brought the truth. I brought no guilt. I introduced grace. Jesus told me that relationships are more important than rituals, and I shared this with them. That getting your shelves stocked is not as important as preparing your soul. That he issues warnings out of love, not fear. I began getting up early just to sit quietly, not for educational purposes, not to preach, only to hear. There are times when I can only hear the wind. There are moments when I sense his presence more strongly than words. In any case, I'm learning to remain motionless. I no longer put in 60-hour work weeks. In any case, my knees are giving out. More than that, though, I no longer think that purpose and productivity are synonymous. I go for walks, I prepare easy meals. Just to hear my daughter laugh, I give her a call. I've discovered that being present in the little things is more important for success than creating something large. Being there for those in need is what faith is all about, not attending every event. Perhaps you are similar to me. You may have left the building, but you still harbor a deep love for Jesus. Perhaps you've been so severely harmed that you're unsure of your ability to trust people. Perhaps you've forgotten what it means to give up and have instead concentrated on surviving. I understand. I have experienced it. I am here to tell you, though, that he has not forgotten you. He doesn't feel embarrassed by your suffering. Your doubt doesn't scare him. Furthermore, he is not constrained by your past. After I died, he met me in a glowing desert. However, I believe he wants to meet you exactly where you are, in the quiet, in silence, in reality. When the 3 days of darkness will occur is unknown to me. However, I am aware that a candle cannot provide the light that will see us through it. It comes from Christ. Not the Christ of performance, not the Christ of church politics, but the real Jesus, the one who kneels beside the broken. That's the Jesus I met, and that's the Jesus I now live for. Before we wrap up, if you believe God is able to reach us even in life's hardest moments, share in the comments where you're watching from. Your responses remind me that none of us walk this journey alone. Thank you.